So I got going on. So like I said, I've been living on my own. I'm doing this kind of single thing. I'm not a big fan. I'm not ready to start dating yet. I've got a few obstacles when I'm ready to start dating, a few obstacles to overcome. For instance, the last time I was on a date, I was like 16 years old. My mom's dropping me off at the skating rink. That was like 25 years ago. She's older now and doesn't drive after dark. So I really don't know. Not to mention, where do you find somebody to go on a date with? Like how many single Christian women in the room right now between the ages of 35 and 40? Make some noise. Right. So I know there are people with good intentions and they're like, Dwayne, when you're ready, eHarmony. I'm like, I don't think so. eHarmony, you should try it. I am not trying eHarmony. Why not? I don't trust the integrity of those systems. They are designed to make you liars. See, God has made me a promise. God's promised me that the one He has for me, she's going to be intelligent and articulate and beautiful, talented, professional. There's just a whole long list. And I know people tell me, well, that list is kind of long and pretty specific. I think you may be kind of going overboard there. I said, no, I know what my God has for me. He can do anything. I really have a problem, though, thinking that she is on the other end of the computer looking for 40-year-old underemployed minister needing a membership to the Y. Must-have own Star Wars collection. I'm having a hard time with that. Oh, so what else we got going on? Although I'm not quite ready to start dating, I know that there are parents in here who've got kids who think that they're ready to start dating. So I've got some parenting advice from dear old Dwayne, and it's free with admission at the door. It was great. Listen up. You can feel free to take notes. Now, if you're parents of sons, this is the only advice I've got for you. Lock them in the basement. Okay? Lock them in the basement. Throw some pizza rolls down. I don't want you to be cruel. Pizza rolls, video games, homeschool them, whatever. Just don't let them out. Now, if you're the parents of daughters, here's the advice I've got for you. Don't lock your kids in the basement. That's against the law. Okay? There's rules against that. And I know because I checked. And I'm sure that these were laws that were passed by people who didn't have children, but the law is the law. So when the age comes when the boys start nosing around, and that's going to happen, don't clean your guns. That's cliche. We all have heard, I'll clean the guns and scare them. That's not going to scare them. Most of them have been handling guns around here anyway. And so, and thanks to CSI, they know that you know that a little gunshot residue is going to lead right back to you anyway. So take Eddie Haskell for a drive, okay? That's what you want to do, is take Eddie Haskell for a drive. Eddie Haskell's a cultural reference, okay? If you're not familiar, trust me, it has funny stuff. Google it later. Take Eddie for a drive. Hey, Eddie. How would you like to go for a car ride? Now, Eddie doesn't want to go for a car ride, but you're the only person standing in the way between him and her. So, of course, he's going to, I'd love to go on a car ride with you, Mr. Castle. Great, let's go. Where are we going to go? Somewhere private, somewhere where we can have a conversation without all these listening ears. Okay, let's go. So you're going to drive. Now, the hardest part about one of these conversations is actually initiating it. And the beauty of this plan is that you don't have to initiate the conversation. Eddie's going to initiate the conversation. It might be quiet for 5 minutes, might be 10 minutes, but eventually he's going to say, what are we doing at the cemetery? Now, it's really important that you go to a cemetery, not a memorial park, not a memory gardens, psyche. Cemetery. What are we doing at the cemetery? Well, I told you I wanted to go somewhere private where we won't be disturbed. You don't see anybody, do you, Eddie? So, of course, there's nobody there. Let's take a walk. Grab that shovel in the back seat, will you? Shovel? What am I doing with the shovel? Well, you sure do ask a lot of questions, Eddie. Why don't you go ahead and start digging right there? Digging? Well, why am I digging? Well, you're not lazy, are you, Eddie? Because my girls aren't allowed to date lazy boys. Are you a lazy boy, Eddie? No, sir. Great. I just want to make a point here for you, Eddie. I love my girls, and I don't want anything bad to happen. You get what I'm saying, right? You get my point. Now, there are going to be 3 possible responses, and this is worth the price of admission here. Listen to these 3 responses. The first is the cartoon response, and that's while you're speaking to Eddie. Ask him if he knows your point. You look, and Eddie's not there anymore. It's just a spinning shovel and a streak. Eddie's gone. You just weeded out a third of those bad apples that got eyes on your little girl. Now, the second possible response is the "you're too dumb to date my daughter" response. That's the "you get my point, don't you, Eddie?" "No, sir, I'm not quite sure I understand." "Eddie, you're standing in a hole in the cemetery and you dug it. Do me a favor, go home. When you get home, go in your room, close the door, have a seat, and I want you to stay there until your parents buy you a clue." Now, congratulations, dads. We just eliminated 2/3 of those guys that have eyes on your little girl. Now, the third possible response is the "I'm not scared" response. Now, that's when Eddie tells you that "I do understand your point, and I promise nothing's going to happen to her. Can I pick her up at 6 o'clock tomorrow?" Now, Eddie's not afraid in the cemetery in a hole that he dug. And if he doesn't know fear, he has no business being around your little girl. Send him packing. Congratulations, you've assured your spot as the only man in your little girl's life. So, Eddie comes over to the house. This is a true story. Eddie comes over to the house one time and he wants to watch TV with the girls. And it's time for him to go home. My brother happens to be visiting. We decide it's time for Eddie to go home. My brother says, "Can I tag along?" And I'm thinking, this ought to be fun. So we hop in the car, and it's the father in the front seat, the uncle in the front seat, and Eddie in the back seat. This boy's petrified. Well, petrified's an exaggeration. He was shaking a little. He's petrified. And so we're driving, it's 10 minutes, and Eddie's like sitting back there. My brother says, "What are your intentions with my niece?" Now, you know how you can never think of a clever response at the time? Like, hindsight being 20/20, he wished he would have said something else. Like, I'm sure he wished he would have said something clever like, "No hablo inglés." And that's not what he said. And I'm sure if he had it to do all over again, he would have picked something else, something along the lines of, "I was really looking to find a nice Bible study partner." But no, sadly, that's not what he said. The only thing that he could think of to say, I'm not making this up, the only thing he could think of to say was, "I just want to French kiss her." I know, right? So, me and my brother, we looked at each other, we looked back at Eddie, because we know that he has no idea what he's just said, or to whom he has just said it. And because of that, we just looked at each other and we laughed. We laughed so hard. We busted out in uncontrollable laughter. It hurt to laugh. We laughed, tears streaming down our face. I only laughed harder than that one more time after that. 10 minutes later, the same kids, "What are we doing at the cemetery?" That's my time. Thank you very much.